guys, it's Lydia. If you're new here, hi, welcome to my channel, and if you're not, then welcome back to another one of my videos. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a summer reading recap of all of the books I've read this summer. I'm going to be doing an honest review. I'm not going to do any spoilers in this video. I'm going to be going through a couple different categories, from romance, psychological thrillers, and just the books that have been super popular. I'll let you know if they're overhyped or actually worth reading. I'm going to be talking about Emily Henry, Colleen Hoover, so many more, so let's just get right into it. Starting out with We Were Liars. I've seen this everywhere and I know it's actually an older book. The plot of this is that there are 4 cousins who go to this beach house every single year. It's been a tradition since they were kids. They all come from a very wealthy family. The main character ended up getting in an accident and it provides very little detail about the accident, and no one around her will answer any of her questions. She can't remember anything that happened. Throughout the book, she's kind of trying to figure it out and like put together the pieces, and she's really confused why no one will actually tell her what happened. And let me just say, out of all the books I'm going to mention here, this was my absolute favorite. This was such a page turner. I read this so fast because it was so good. I wasn't bored at all. It led me wondering, like, you just want to find out what happened. There's so many little hints throughout it that when you find out what happened, every single little tiny detail of this book makes so much sense, and you're like, how did I not catch this sooner? Yeah, there's a huge plot twist and it is shocking. I was like, no way, this is actually happening. It's a really good beach read. It has one of the biggest plot twists, second to Verity, that I've read so far out of all of the other books I've read. Something the author does is add little bits of fairy tales throughout it, which is just a very unique touch. I'm gonna rate this book 9.5 out of 10. I'm absolutely obsessed with this, and you guys all need to read it if you're looking for a book and don't know what to read. Following that, I was very hesitant to reading the sequel because I find sequels sometimes ruin the book. They're never as good as the first. I didn't know if I'd like it because this follows the aunts of the main characters of the other book, so it's kind of like a prequel, but you still have to read the first book first. The events in this are taken 27 years before the other one, so it's a different generation, and it kind of explains how the adults end up to where they are in the other book. The plot of this is based in the exact same beach location, so it's a very beachy feel. It shares how the parents grew up, and it explains the parenting styles for the first book. It follows the main character, Carrie. Now this book has a lot more, I want to say, dark features in it. It talks about addiction, a lot more death, jealousy, family relations, and it really hints on feeling like out of place in a family. It also has topics of plastic surgery in it, which is also shocking. I would say this book almost makes the other one like even better. This one still has tons of secrets. It has just as many shocking twists. They're just shocking twists in a completely different way. It was so good. It kept me engaged the entire time. So I'd give this one an 8.5 out of 10. Not quite as good as the other one, but still really good book. It's a sequel that I actually loved. Moving on to Twisted Lies. You can tell this is a huge book. This is 500 pages. Now, this is the 4th book in the sequel, but all the books are like somewhat interconnected, but they all have their own unique storyline, so you don't have to read them in a specific order. I can kind of tell a couple characters were definitely the main characters from the other books, but there was nothing that I felt like I missed out on other than probably a couple spoilers for the first ones if I read those first. I decided to read this because I had seen so many good reviews on it. I don't get it at all. So the plot of this is about a girl named Stella who is a content creator looking to expand her career when she meets a really rich CEO of the building that she's living in. She then starts to experience a stalker, and she turns to him for help and is kind of dependent on him for that throughout the book. This book feels very current. Like, I was reading this, and because I do content creation, I found I wasn't escaping, if that makes sense. Like, when I read, I like to feel like I'm out of my own life, and this is very, like, only relatable to some people, I guess, but, like, I felt like I wasn't escaping while reading this, just because it was too current. Like, any book that mentions TikTok and Snapchat, I'm just like, maybe not. The category is romance mystery, but there are so many main reasons why I did not enjoy this other than just that fact. First of all, I was super bored. There were so many unnecessary scenes added in this. The scenes didn't drag on too much and there was a lot going on, but also nothing going on at the same time. They would be traveling to different locations, but none of that ended up being relevant whatsoever. Like, there are so many just unrelevant things that never got tied up at the end. It switched between Christian and Stella, the two main characters throughout the book. Christian's this super dark, twisted guy or whatever. Again, nothing ended up being relevant. I did not get a conclusion. The best part of the book ended up being irrelevant. I just don't get the point of this. For this to be the final book of the 4-book series, I'm glad I started with this one because it saved me the time of all of the other ones. Moving on to Meet Me at the Lake, I had very low expectations for this one for some reason. I just wasn't drawn to the title or the cover. I thought it was going to be some super cheesy, lame romance book that was just super overhyped and pointless to read. I was actually pleasantly surprised by this one. It's about 2 characters who meet at a coffee shop together and they spend one full day together. They agree not to stay in touch but to meet each other at this girl's lake house in exactly 1 year, and he doesn't show up. The way this book is written is it bounces back in between time, so you're seeing the day they spent together and then present time. Throughout the book, you're wondering why didn't he show up. They end up running into each other 10 years later, and they're both in such different places than they had hoped to be. You get all the answers of why he didn't show up, which is amazing because we love books with conclusions. I also found this book easy to read because it had 2 different storylines and it kept me engaged throughout it, because if you don't love the one storyline, you'll love the other one, and I found both equally as interesting, to be honest. It was a romance book without being overly cheesy. It was funny. It's a really good beach read with relatable topics, talking about work-life balance, loss of loved ones, struggling to accept things not always going as planned, and also adapting to things going differently. And with age, realizing it's okay to kind of change your life path if that's now what you're looking for. So yeah, I really liked this one. I'm giving this a 7.5 out of 10. It's a really cute beach read. If you're looking for something a little lighter, kind of funny, kind of cheesy romance, this is a good one. Next, we are completely switching gears with Too Late by Colleen Hoover. This is not a cute, fun, flirty beach read romance. This is a dark psychological thriller that left me feeling dark and heavy and kind of stressed out the whole time. I was reading this before bed and it just gave me such an uneasy feeling. Let's dive into it. Colleen Hoover actually wrote this book 12 years ago and she had never planned on publishing it, and it was written for her private Facebook group audience, and she was just writing chapters here and there. She was trying to write something completely different than her other books, which is kind of similar to Verity, but also not at all the same. The plot of this flips between a girl and a drug dealer's perspective. The drug dealer is very unself-aware, if that makes sense. He's just very ignorant and mean and selfish, and he had trauma growing up, but it doesn't really dive into his trauma, but the girl is just not into it and he thinks she totally is. She's actually just using him to get by. And then this cop comes into the picture. He's going undercover and living in this house and recognizes the state that this girl is living in. That's kind of the plot of the book. Now let me just say, the ending, if you think you know how this is gonna end, you're wrong. And then you're wrong again. And then you're wrong again. There are like 3 huge plot twists at the end of this book, and every time one of them would finish, I'd be like, okay, so this is how it's gonna end. And then she'd throw us another loop, and then another loop. It was a really great plot twist. She's so good with the plot twists. There are a lot of trigger warnings of sexual abuse, drug use, and poverty, so it does cover some really dark, heavy topics. I would give this one a 7 out of 10 because it was really well written. I would never read it again just because I didn't love the topic and the feel and the energy of the book. I also know a lot of people don't like Colleen Hoover. I personally love her. Comment down below if you like her, and if you do, what your favorite book is, and if you don't, why not? Because I feel like she is so good with writing about things that have never been written about in such depth that it's like kind of crazy. How can you write about so many of these topics if you've never gone through them? Also, before we move on to the next book, my favorite book of hers is Ugly Love and November 9th and Hopeless, if you're looking for Colleen Hoover recommendations. So I actually only have 2 books left. The next one is Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is actually the cutest beach read ever. First of all, look at the cover. Like, how can you not want to buy this? It's so pretty. One thing I will say is I hate hardcovers, and I wish she had came out with this in a soft cover version. I know she's trying to make more money, but I just don't love the hardcover. When I read this, I had to take this off because it was driving me insane. The plot of this is about 5 friends who get together every year to go to this one girl's beach house and cottage, and they always spend the summer together. The girl's dad is actually selling the cottage, so this is going to be their last time spending it together. 2 of the people who get together were actually previously engaged, and they broke off their engagement and they didn't tell the other group of friends, so they're trying to like play it cool without ruining the trip, but also they don't want to be around each other. Throughout the book, it explains why the relationship ended. The time is bouncing forward and back in time. Throughout the book, one of the characters is talking about how they don't seem as close as they used to be. No one's really staying in touch outside of this trip. The girl's trying to make the most of it, and the overarching storyline is that it's okay to be in different places throughout your life with your friends and your connections and stuff. That people grow and people change, and I really like the overall message of this. I'm giving this one an 8 out of 10. I really like it. Then the last book I read this summer is Book Lovers, also by Emily Henry. She had written The People We Leave on Vacation, People We Meet on Vacation, something like that. I read that last year. I like that probably more than this one, but less than the one I just reviewed. This is really popular, but I really found it hard to get into because it was kind of boring. And this book, if you like Hallmark movies, you will love this because this is a Hallmark movie in a book form. It's giving the exact same energy. The plot of this is about a girl named Nora. She is a New York City book editor, and she goes on a trip with her sister because they haven't been feeling as close. She's pregnant and about to have another baby, and she wants to spend some quality time with her in a small town. The location of one of the books are written and based in, and so they get there and it's not at all what they expected it to be. They spend their time there trying to check things off of their bucket list before they have to go back and return to their crazy busy lives. While they're there, she ends up meeting her like nemesis book rival, and he's actually from that town. She's kind of like spending time with him, seeing him here and there. Kind of cheesy romance. You all knew it was coming. There is a lot of humor in it, but there's nothing shocking about it. There's nothing keeping me interested, like, ooh, what's gonna happen? Because I felt like I knew exactly what was gonna happen. It's definitely a slow burn. I just don't really know the value of the purpose of this. Like, if you're looking for a cheesy romance, I like a lot of the other ones I mentioned way more than this. I would never read this again. I'm gonna give it a 5.5 out of 10. Alright, you guys, so these are my final 4 favorite books that I read this summer. Happy Place, Meet Me at the Lake, and the We Were Liars series. I hope you guys found this helpful. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I post new videos every Wednesday and Saturday, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching.